Hey everybody, it's Trags alongside Josue Pavon of WEEI and CLNS Media. Another 22-point first-half deficit to the Philadelphia 76ers and another remarkable, stunning Celtics comeback here in game number 2. The Celtics win it by a score of 108-103. So many stars again. 6 players, Josue, in double figures. Jason Tatum, 21 points. Terry Rozier with 20, and Al Horford with a key layup to really seal the deal in the final 10 seconds. What do you make of the Celtics getting inside the heads of Ben Simmons, Joel Embiid, and the Sixers?
It's the identity of this team, Trags. We've seen this all season long. You know, we see what they can do when they're down by a lot, what they managed to do in that second quarter. A huge run, 17-3 run that made all the difference, and I just felt like this team the Philadelphia 76ers got hit. When it came to the third quarter, the Celtics kept on punching, and they just couldn't come back in the end of that fourth quarter. And you saw what the Celtics did in the second half. You know, the identity of this team, everyone taking part, knowing their role, and that's exactly what we saw tonight.
Okay, Brad Stevens, as a matter of fact, with Bill Belichick in attendance. He was in the hallway talking to people before the game. Well, after the game, Brad Stevens said, I just had to remind people in the huddle, do your job. Don't try to do too much. You like that segue there? I did. Well, the Celtics certainly did do their job after they were down 48-26. Matter of fact, Josue, it was a 50-20 run overall. But in this game, it's important to realize, thanks to T.J. McConnell, the Sixers came back and took a 5-point lead themselves, 93-88, and then it was Terry Rozier again coming through in the clutch with 3-pointers.
Yeah, Covington hit a couple of big shots as well. You know, we talk about Ben Simmons' struggle. I think a lot of the struggles had to do with the fact that his teammates weren't struggling. Maybe not all of them, but there was a collective group that really took control of the tempo and of the energy of the 76ers. And I just felt like he sort of wanted to just help those guys out. He did finish with 7 assists tonight, but, I mean, either way, for him to only take, 4 attempts, I mean, he has to be a little more aggressive than that, especially in the fourth quarter when they really needed him. I know the Celtics, you can credit the Celtics' defense for limiting him, but at the same time, you know, you expect to see that type of aggressiveness out of the young guy. But again, I mean, in this environment, hostile environment, whether Joel Embiid wants to admit that or not, I think the Celtics rallied behind that, and you saw what they did, you know, to respond.
Ben Simmons, no field goals, 1 free throw. He had 7 assists and 5 rebounds. Are the Celtics inside Ben Simmons' head? Tonight, they threw Marcus Morris at him. They threw Marcus Smart at him. But Marcus Morris really did do a pretty physical job with him. But Brad Stevens, after the game, in terms of trying to get in the way of Ben Simmons, said it's all about staying in front of him.
1,000%. That's exactly what they did, you know, from the beginning. You know, I just felt like they continued to do that, throw a number of bodies at him. He is the guy who leads that fast break, that transition offense. How he performs is exactly the style that they play in. Transition offense, get going, and the Celtics are able to stop him. And you saw what happened in Game 1. A lot of turnovers happened, you know, a lot of costly plays. And this time around, I feel like they did a really good job of keeping him limited to not go out and score the way he did. Even though that was a losing effort, he did manage to score 20 points in Game 1. 1 point tonight, huge difference.
Ben Simmons after the game saying, no, the Celtics aren't nearly as physical as even the Miami Heat were in round number 1. All of my mistakes were self-inflicted.
I mean, between him and
you can tell the frustration is there.
You can just sense it between him and Joel Embiid. You know, I had a chance to go into the locker room, and Ben Simmons is out in the hallway getting ready to go down to the podium. And after like 2 minutes, he opens the door up and he goes, "What's going on?" And they're like, "Oh, we're waiting for Joe." He goes, "Joe, hurry the F up." Like, you know, just the frustration out of these guys, you can sense it. But at the same time, you can sense the confidence from guys like J.J. Redick, who said, look, we're going to bounce back. We're not worried about it. We're heading back home. We're going to take care of business at home. I wouldn't be shocked if this team does manage to bounce back and tie this series up, but it's going to take it's going to take better defense out of these guys, and especially in guarding the Celtics from the perimeter.
Okay, 2 things regarding Brett Brown, and we'll wrap it up here. He did not call a timeout in that drastic 17-3 Celtics run to end the first half. Instead, he called a timeout, I think, when it was 11-5, really early in the game. You've got to wonder, he'd like to have that timeout back and have it later in the first half. And Brett Brown took T.J. McConnell out when the Sixers were really rolling offensively midway through the fourth quarter and put Ben Simmons back in. And you understand Brett Brown after the game saying, look, I'm staying with Brett Brown for better or for worse. Ben Simmons has earned the right to play throughout his struggles.
Yeah. You know, he has in some capacity, but I just feel like it has to be Brown's responsibility to know when to call those timeouts. I mean, this is a young guy who doesn't have a lot of experience in these situations. I think it was on Brett Brown to call those timeouts, especially when the things got rolling. Listen, Trags, this team has scored over 30 three-pointers in 2 games. I mean, there has to be an emphasis to guard the perimeter, and I expected them to respond in the game, too.
Early, not to cut you off, but early on, the Sixers were running at the Celtics three-point shooters. I thought they did a really good job early.
But I feel like they did do a good job early, but that huge run in the second quarter, you can't get discouraged from that. I just feel like the energy was not the same coming into the second half, and I believe it was Marcus Smart who hit a 3 early to get things going in the third quarter, and then it was almost just like they were like, okay, here we go again. They have to be able to respond, and Brett Brown, I think it's up to him. In my opinion, it's up to him to know when to call those timeouts and get those guys refocused.
Game number 3 is Saturday afternoon in Philadelphia at 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock on Monday evening in Philadelphia for game number 4. We will have you covered. I know you and the boss, Nick Gelso, are making the trip to Philadelphia.
Road trip.
And you will be on site at the Wells Fargo Center covering the Celtics for CLNS Media. Of course, cover or follow us on Twitter at Celtics CLNS Media. This has been the Garden Report, powered by CLNS Media. Game number 2 final again, the Celtics 108, the Sixers 103. For Josue Pavon, I'm Mike Petralia, CLNS Media.